Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on what is a very wet and gloomy Saturday out there in the UK at the moment, but I hope wherever you're watching this around the world, the sun is shining, you're having a very good start to the weekend. Plenty to talk about in today's video. We'll look at what Mikel Arteta had to say about William Saliba's future in his press conference yesterday. Those weren't the live quotes, so you wouldn't have seen those in the actual press conference that happened yesterday, but they went live at 10:30 p.m. last night for today's papers. We'll have a look ahead to that big game in Newcastle tomorrow, some of the big decisions facing Mikel Arteta, and of course end with a predicted 11 as always. First of all, a little bit of an update on the book I'm writing. I spoke to you about it a while ago. Still beavering away at it behind the scenes while trying to keep on top of everything that's going on at the moment this season. It's a lot of hard work, but it's been a lot of fun to write. Nowhere near finished yet, but I'm getting there. It's been mad writing it, just sort of going back over everything that's happened since Mikel Arteta arrived at the club, from COVID to Mesut Ozil to Aubameyang to Guendouzi to just everything. The way this rebuild has taken place over the last few years, there's so much stuff that I've totally forgotten about, and then he's sort of researching it, speaking to people, and it all comes flooding back. God, so much has gone on in such a short space of time. It's pretty mad. But yeah, you can pre-order it. I'll put the link in down below if you haven't already got your pre-order in. I hope you're looking forward to reading it as much as I'm looking forward to finish writing it. And yeah, it comes out August 31st still. That is the date. So you've got plenty of times to get the pre-orders in, but please do if you can. That would be fantastic. Right, let's start talking about William Saliba, shall we? Of course, he's dominated the headlines in recent weeks, but not because of his future or his contract, because of this injury that he's been struggling with. But Mikel has now been talking about his contract, which at the moment remains unsigned, which is a little bit of a sort of elephant in the room type scenario, really, because we're all sort of hoping Saliba gets back fit, plays a part between now and the end of the season, but if not, that he gets himself fit for pre-season so he's ready to go next season. But if he hasn't signed a new contract by the end of pre-season, it puts Arsenal in a really difficult position, because he'll only have 1 year left on his contract and he could walk away for free at the end of next season. So really, Arsenal would have to sell this summer, and that is it's a horrible thing to think about, because you don't want to be losing William Saliba, but if he doesn't sign a new deal, if Arsenal can't get this deal over the line and done, then they're going to have to sell him this summer, really. And that would be a huge thing for Arsenal, because they've only had him for 1 year here. It's made such a massive impact, formed such a great partnership with Gabriel. You certainly don't want to bring that to an end after a year. But if a deal hasn't been signed and doesn't get signed, then it's certainly a big decision that Arsenal are going to have to make at some point during this summer. But Mikel's been speaking about that in his press conference yesterday. He says that it's just a matter of timing. So he's still very confident that this is a deal that's going to get done. Of course, Martinelli has been done. Bukayo Saka has been agreed, although it's not yet signed yet. But certainly the word that I'm getting when I speak to people at the club is that, everyone's confident that is going to be done. It's just waiting basically on an announcement type of thing. But this is what Mikel said about William Saliba. Said, we want to keep our best talent, especially the players that deserve some recognition. I think he has been incredible since he came back from his loan period, and we want to reward him. That is for sure. We will find the right moment to do that. Obviously, Edu and the board are on top of every negotiation regarding new contracts, and now we are doing everything we possibly can do to do that in the right moment at the right time. The communication and the relationship is super. It's about timing, nothing else. So, confident words, you would think, there from Mikel when he's talking about that situation. He doesn't seem to think there's going to be an issue. He certainly doesn't give the impression there from those comments publicly that he was worried about the situation. He believes it will happen. It's just a matter of timing. Fingers crossed that is the case, because he certainly does need to be rewarded. William Saliba, 100% he needs to be rewarded, because he's been flourished into this fantastic centre-back, one of the best young centre-backs in Europe. So this contract needs to reward him for that, and hopefully it will, because God, if you just imagine the amount of clubs that are knocking on his agent's door at the moment asking, what's going on with these contract talks, is he going to be available, what's happening, every club will be doing it behind the scenes. You just know that will be happening. So fingers crossed Arsenal can get this done relatively quickly. You'd imagine now it will be once the season ends, it's not going to be before that. And can sort of, because you don't want this dragging on. You don't want it becoming a thing as the summer goes on. And it will become a thing if the summer goes on and it's not done. It'll get more and more momentum. More and more people will speak about it. And you just don't want that. You just want it done and dusted. So there's no nervousness around the club. The fans don't have to worry about it, and you can plan for next season knowing who your first choice 2 centre-backs are. So yeah, fingers crossed that can done. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, looking ahead now to Newcastle tomorrow. Long trip up to Newcastle. I'm doing it all in one day tomorrow, driving there and back. It's going to be about over 10 hours on the road, I imagine. Long day. Fingers crossed they can get a result, because that's going to be a pretty depressing drive home if they don't. Some big decisions for Mikel to make going into this one. It's a huge game. Manchester City playing today. By the time you've watched this video, you might be watching it this evening and you'll know the result by now. They're playing Leeds, of course, at 3 p.m. Sam Allardyce's first game in charge. Always loved Sam Allardyce. Always loved him. Hopefully he can go and get a result at the Etihad today. Don't think he will, but who knows? Football, mad things happen sometimes. Perhaps that could happen. So yeah, the likelihood is Arsenal are going to be going into this Newcastle game tomorrow 4 points behind Manchester City on the equal number of games, of course, it will be at that point, and under real pressure to get a result. And they're going to have to go and play an awful lot better than they did at St James's Park last season. That is for sure. They're going to have to deal with the threat that Newcastle provide a lot better than they did last year, when they basically caved under all that pressure and just couldn't deal with the physical side of things. They're going to have to do better than that this time around, and Mikel's got some big decisions to make. At centre-back, obviously, no Saliba, who plays. You think it's got to be Kivior, and I'm assuming that Gabriel is going to be fit for this one. Fingers crossed. Mikel wouldn't confirm or deny that yesterday in his press conference, but I'm hoping he's going to be fit for this one, that it was nothing more than an impact injury, and if he is, then I can't imagine Holding comes back in for this. It will just be Kivior, because he played well against Chelsea. He deserves to keep his pace in the team and be confident, and you just put him in alongside Gabriel. So that's one decision. Then you look at what happens maybe at left back. Zinchenko has definitely been struggling in recent weeks. Do you make a bit of a change at left back, because you know the threat that Kieran Trippier provides for Newcastle? So many of their goals come from Trippier and his deliveries, both set pieces but also in open play. The way he gets down the right hand side, the way Zinchenko plays, the space that gets left in that position, you do wonder, is Trippier going to exploit that? Would it be better to have Tierney there, who's more of a out-and-out left-back, who'll stay in that position more and potentially shut down the space that Kieran Trippier could potentially get into? So I think that's a big decision Mikel has to make. You have to kind of weigh it up two ways, don't you? Because I know Zinchenko hasn't played too well. We've spoken about it a fair bit, but when he doesn't play, like when he didn't play against West Ham and Tierney came in for that one, you immediately realise how much Arsenal miss Zinchenko in those sort of midfield areas. And so you've got to weigh it up and decide what to do. And I'm sure Mikel will be thinking about that. It's definitely a big decision he's got, is that left-back situation, I think. And then what do you do with Leandro Trossard? He played against Chelsea, played well. I thought just all Arsenal win when Trossard plays. That's just what happens. When he starts, they're winning games. When he doesn't start recently, they're not winning games. So what do you do with that? He left Gabriel Martinelli out against Chelsea. I don't see him doing the same again. I just feel like Martinelli comes back in for this one. He scored so many goals recently. He's been such good form, goals or assists. I just can't imagine that he leaves Martinelli out for this one. But then that just thinks, well, so that means you have to leave Trossard out. And that feels like an odd thing to do as well, given the way he's playing and the way Arsenal seem to perform when Trossard is on the pitch. So it's a big decision to make there. I mean, you could potentially play Trossard somewhere else. I thought Jesus played very, very well against Chelsea. He scored his goal, so I can't imagine he drops Jesus. Saka's definitely been off form recently, not at his best. He's not been playing badly, but he's not been at his best. But then I'm not sure about Trossard over on the right-hand side. I think if you play Trossard, you either play as a false nine or you play him at the left. He can play on the right. He can do a job there. But I think if you're taking Saka out of the side to play someone who's not really in their best position over there, I think that's a bit of a risk, and I can't imagine Mikel Arteta doing that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Mikel decides with those front three, and that's clearly the big areas. And also, you've got obviously Jorginho and Thomas Partey as well. What do you do there? Personally, I think this is a game for Partey. I was happy that he was dropped against Chelsea because I think he deserved to be dropped. He hadn't played well, and I thought that was a game for Jorginho, who would control the game a little bit. Chelsea aren't the most physical side. It's completely different at Newcastle, and the way St James's Park, the intensity is going to be there. I'm not sure it's a game for Jorginho. I can see him getting bypassed, and that will cause Arsenal problems. I think if Thomas Partey, it feels more like a game that Thomas Partey should be starting, and just fingers crossed he can play in, sort of show the form he's shown for most of the season, rather than the form that he's shown in the last few games when he has played. So let me know in all those things what you think should do. Who should play at left back? Who should play in midfield? Who should make way up front if Trossard does start? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so let's go there. I'm going to give my predicted 11 now. And as always, disclaimer time. This isn't based on any information or anything like that. This isn't what the team that I would pick necessarily. This is a team that I think Mikel Arteta is going to go for tomorrow at St James's, with all that in mind that I've talked about in terms of the big decisions facing him. Look, Ramsdale's going to be in goal, we know that. I think Ben White definitely plays at right back, of course. I think he's going to go Kivior and Gabriel. Again, I'm assuming that Gabriel is fit. I don't know for sure if he's fit or not, but I'm assuming he's going to be fit. So I'm going to stick with that centre-back partnership of Kivior, Gabriel. No Rob Holding for this one. And I'm going to say Zinchenko at left back. I personally think that this is probably a better game for Tierney to start. But I just think Mikel is going to go with Zinchenko. He loves playing him. I think he loves what he brings in terms of an extra man in midfield. And I think if Zinchenko's fit, we've seen this season, if Zinchenko's fit, he starts. So I'd be surprised if Tierney started, even though I feel like he probably should do. So I think that's it. So the back four, I think, Ramsdale in goal, White, Kivior, Gabriel and Zinchenko. In midfield, I think he's going to go for Partey. I think he'll look at the Newcastle players, the size of them, the physicality of them, the way they play, the legs that they've got, and I think he'll just go for Thomas Partey in this one. I think he gave him a rest against Chelsea. It was the right thing to do, but I think now he'll bring him back into the starting 11 at St James's Park. So Partey in that holding role in front of the back four, and then obviously Granit Xhaka and Martin Odegaard. Can't see it being anything else other than those two. Odegaard just one goal away now from breaking or equaling Cesc Fabregas's record of 15 Premier League goals from midfield for Arsenal. So Partey, Xhaka and Odegaard in the midfield. And then I think he's not going to play Trossard. I think we'll see Saka, Jesus and Martinelli as the front three. I just feel that's probably the way he's going to go for this one. Like I said, Martinelli's been in such good form. He gave him a bit of a rest against Chelsea. I'd be very, very surprised if Martinelli doesn't come back in for a game of this magnitude. How important it is. Mikel obviously loves him, and he's produced in recent weeks, more than anyone else in the front line, really, when you look at his numbers for goals and assists. So I think Martinelli comes back in. Jesus will continue as the striker, and Bukayo Saka, even though he's not been at his very best, I think he'll get the nod because he's Bukayo Saka and he always gets the nod. So that's my predicted 11 for this one. Ramsdale, White, Kivior, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli. If you agree with that, disagree with that, please do let me know. I'd love to see who you think should be starting this game. Just drop me a comment in the comments below. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your time as always. Have a very good weekend wherever you're watching this around the world. I will be heading up St James's Park tomorrow, so look out for all the usual stuff from me on my social media feeds ahead of kickoff and during the game, of course. Have a great day. I'll speak to you very, very soon.